Well, come on, all of you big strong men. Uncle Sam needs your help again. Got himself in a terrible jam way down yonder in Vietnam. Put down your books and pick up a gun. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, there ain't no time to wonder why. We're all gonna die. Now come on, Wall Street, don't be slow. Man, this is war, a go-go. There's plenty good money to be made, supplying the army with the tools of the trade. Just hope and pray that if they drop the bomb, they drop it on the Viet Cong. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, ain't no time to wonder why. We're all gonna die.
Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another edition of Quick Trivia with Mike. It's the weekly quiz show right here on Channel 955, where we test your knowledge of facts. Sometimes they're a little bit more historic in nature. Sometimes they're very contemporary. Hopefully they're always a lot of fun. I am your host and the quizmaster, Mike Brever. Let's sit back, relax, and have a little bit of fun this next half hour, shall we? You know, a lot of times lately I've had a guest host to kind of liven up the show, give you a different perspective, maybe even let you have an opportunity to meet some of the behind-the-scenes people here at East Castle Place. That didn't happen this week. I was hoping to be able to get a guest host for you. We'll have one for you next week, but this week you're stuck with just me. Hopefully, I'll live up to your expectations. You know we have a new tradition here at Quick Trivia. We begin our show every week with the birthdays of the week. And this week we do have several. I'm actually taping this show on Thursday, May 5th. You're going to be watching it for the first time on Friday, May 6th. But today, May 5th, Bob Anthony celebrates his birthday. Later this week, Eileen Olin and Richard Kneedler, birthday twins. They both celebrate their birthday on May 10th. So happy birthday to Bob, Eileen, and Richard. Many happy returns of the day. If you pass any of them in the corridors over this next week, be sure to wish them a very happy birthday and wish them one from all of us here at Quick Trivia with Mike as well. Well, you know by now how this game is played, but let me remind you, we've had several people get their name mentioned on the show over the last 2+ years that we've been doing this. We've had Sandra Meyer, and we've had Terry Sundberg, we've had Kelvin Schrader, we've had Alex Hill, we've had Jim Fry. Many people get their name on the show. Sometimes it's because they play along, send us the answers to the questions we pose. Sometimes it's because they posed a question that I've ended up using on Quick Trivia. My own wife, Mary Beth, has been very helpful and supportive in that way, sending me lots of great ideas for questions, and her name gets mentioned as well. Speaking of Mary Beth, today, Friday, May 6th, she gets proclaimed as Teacher of the Year. I get to go to a banquet with her tonight at the Wisconsin Center. I'm looking forward to it. I get to be a very proud Mr. Mary Beth Brever for the night. I hope you celebrate with me and wish her a very, very happy day. Let's take a look at our 3 questions from last week, shall we? We're wrapping up our tribute to Earth Week. Now, you know there's actually an Earth Day in April. Our very own Senator Nelson played a tremendous role in creating this as a national holiday. He also really raised the level of conservation efforts, not only in Wisconsin, but throughout the country and throughout the world. So Earth Week really is a big deal here in Wisconsin because of its historic Wisconsin roots. Well, we've paid tribute to it all during the month of April. Our very own Marion Fraley and her, I used to call it the Green Committee, but I think they're known as the Environmental Committee now. They've worked with us and come up with some wonderful trivia questions for me. And today, we give you the answer to the last one. So thanks, Marion, and thanks all of you who participate in the Conservation Committee. I know y'all work very, very hard, and we all have it better here at East Castle Place because of it. We talked a little bit last week about how some of the everyday products we use in our life really are very devastating on the environment. Last week we spoke specifically about fabrics that we wear every day. We pointed out the 10 worst fabrics for conservation. Cotton, polyester, nylon, acrylic, viscose, bamboo, acetate, wool, leather, and fur. We also pointed out that its damage to the environment isn't always because of its harm to wildlife. I mean, you would naturally think of fur because we're killing animals to create clothing. But for example, in the use of leather, it's more the treatment of the leather, the chemicals we use in that damages the environment. And we took a little bit of a look at cotton. Cotton is a very bad fabric to use in creating clothes because of the amount of water it wastes to grow. We pointed out that there was a significant amount of water that is used in the production of 1 kilogram of cotton. A kilogram, you know, that's from the metric system. How much can you make from a kilogram? Well, if you could, you know, clothe 1,000 people, you know, with a kilogram, it's not that much. But 1 kilogram actually creates a single t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. A kilogram creates a single t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. I asked you, how much water does it take to grow a kilogram of cotton? These figures come from the World Wildlife Federation. The answer? It takes about 20,000 liters of water to produce a kilogram of cotton. Now, I told you we're talking metric system here. How much is a liter? Well, it's approximately a quart. There's about 4 liters in a gallon. So if it takes 20,000 liters of water to produce enough cotton to make 1 t-shirt and 1 pair of blue jeans, we literally are using 5,000 gallons of water to create a t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. That, my friends, was the answer to question number 1. It's a tremendous drain on resources. Cotton takes about 5,000 gallons of water to create cotton to build or to make 1 t-shirt and a pair of blue jeans. And that ends our tribute to Earth Week. We're going to be back next year again. Marion, I know, is going to send me lots of good ideas for questions. So thank you, Marion. We had a lot of fun with it this month. We took a look at the Indianapolis 500 last week for our second question. Obviously, the Indianapolis 500 is held every year on Memorial Day weekend. We talked about the fact that it's been held in Indianapolis on what is nicknamed the Brickyard since 1909. It's called the Brickyard because that was the original paving of the Indianapolis 500. And of course, it's a Formula One World Championship. IndyCar racing is basically what the cars are called now. You know, there's the Daytona 500, the Indianapolis 500. They are really the hallmarks of racing, along with Le Mans, you know, the one over in Europe. We talked extensively about the history, how many people have won it 4 times. That is the most wins for anybody at the Indianapolis 500. And there have been actually several people that have done that, have won 4 times. in honor of the quickly coming Indianapolis 500, I asked you, when was the first automobile race held in the world? I gave you a little bit of a hint. I told you it was held at the Bois de Boulogne in France, at the Neuilly Bridge. The original length was 1.2 miles, 2 kilometers. It was won by Georges Bouton. And I asked you, when was that first automobile race held? Well, the answer? Probably earlier than you think. I pointed out to you that the first Indianapolis 500 was in 1909. The very first automobile race was held on April 28th in 1887. That really proves the misconception that I talked about several weeks ago. People here in America think that Henry Ford played a direct role in inventing the automobile. He really didn't. He invented a new way of making the automobile, the assembly line. Automobiles were around for a long time before Henry Ford got around to doing his thing. So April 28th, 1887, Georges Bouton won the original automobile race ever held. Question number 3. We took a quick look at the Emmy Awards. We talked about the fact that it was one of the major awards in the entertainment industry. Grammys, the Oscars, those are some of the other ones as well. A Tony Award for the theater. Emmys basically have to do with television. You know, I used to work at Channel 10 for a long time. Very well-known personality. No longer at Channel 10. He now has his own program, seen on Sunday mornings on Channel 6 at 10 o'clock. Main Streets. John McGivern. He won many Emmys for his program called Around the Corner with John McGivern. Those were local Emmys. One regional Emmys, one in Chicago. The national Emmys really primarily take a look at national programming. And of course, you know, we also talked a little bit about the fact that the most Emmys ever won were for Sesame Street, another television show that I was very proud to be loosely affiliated with when I worked at Channel 10. We also talked about the fact that there are many categories for Emmys. Primetime, daytime, sports, news and documentary, children and family, engineering, regional, international, student, governors and trustees, and the humanitarian and public services. I ask you, there are 2 women who hold the record for the most Emmys ever won by a female entertainer. And I ask you to name at least one of those 2 individuals. The answer? Cloris Leachman and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, of course, is very well known for her work on many sitcoms that we've all come to know and love. The Jerry Seinfeld Show in particular. She was also the star of Veep. She starred as a female vice president, kind of a precursor to what we're watching today. Very funny entertainer. Cloris Leachman, of course, the Mary Tyler Moore Show. She played Phyllis Lindstrom. She also starred in her own show, continuing the Phyllis Lindstrom character, Phyllis, from 1975 to 77. She was also on Malcolm in the Middle. Ironically, something a lot of people don't know is that she also was runner-up to the 1946 Miss America pageant. She ended up earning a scholarship for being the runner-up, and she used it to study acting, which led to her becoming a very well-known and loved entertainer on television. So there you have it. And by the way, Cloris Leachman and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, they've each won 8 Emmys to date. And I say to date because we never know. There may be more on the way. We're going to check out this call. We're not going to get that right now. We have other things that we're dealing with which are much more important. You and quick trivia. And now it's time for a brief intermission. I want you to go get yourself a little bit of brain food. Maybe a cup of coffee, a donut. Hurry back. I have 3 wonderful, wonderful new questions for you for this new week. Hurry back, folks. I'll be right here.
Be careful, my right arm's broken!
Your host and the Quizmaster. I hope you got yourself a little bit of brain food because I'm here to tell you we've got some great questions for you here in the second half. We're going to take a little bit of a look at a historic question to begin with. The kingdom, the principality of Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein, a German-speaking microstate located in the Alps between Austria and Switzerland. Liechtenstein is a constitutional monarchy headed by the Prince of Liechtenstein, bordered by Switzerland to the west, Austria to the south, and east and north actually. Switzerland to the west and south, Austria to the east and north. It's Europe's 4th smallest country. Only covers 160 square kilometers, approximately 62 miles. Population of 38,749. It is one of only 2 doubly landlocked countries in the world. The other being Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is the other one. That may end up being a trivia question. Write that down. That may come up in a future show. Economically, Liechtenstein has one of the highest gross domestic products per person in the world when adjusted for purchasing power parity. Has a really strong financial sector located in Vaduz. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's known as a tax haven for billionaires. It's an alpine country, very, very mountainous, making it a winter sport destination. An interesting thing about Liechtenstein, however, is that like Switzerland, it's a neutral country. Not only is it a neutral country, but it does not yield an army. Doesn't even have an army. It did at one time, however. It dissolved after the 1866 Austro-Prussian War. You know, even though it was a neutral country in World War I and World War II, it typically was aligned with what we might call initially the centrist powers for World War I and the Axis powers for World War II. But it officially was a neutral country and did not yield an army. Once again, the army was dissolved after the Austro-Prussian War of 1866. My question to you, what happened in the Austro-Prussian War? The Liechtenstein army went off to war, and an amazing thing happened to it as a result of that war. The size of the army was affected dramatically because of casualties and in some cases lack thereof. What happened to the What happened to the Liechtenstein army during the Austro-Prussian War? What happened to the size of the army during the war? That ended up dissolving the army, and it has remained a neutral country ever since. That's question number one, my friends. Question number two. I'm going to take a look at someone that was very popular in my youth, and someone that you all know very well. A well-known doctor, Benjamin McLean Spock, born May 2nd, 1903, died March 15th, 1998. Really was a precursor in the development of pediatric medicine. He also was well known for his political activism. He was extremely liberal. But Baby and Child Care, 1946, published. One of the best-selling books of the 20th century. And in spite of his political activism, his role in being a pediatrician probably is what he's best known for. He was the very first pediatrician to study psychoanalysis, to understand children's needs and family dynamics. His ideas in child rearing influenced several generations of parents to be more flexible and affectionate with their children. He was one of the very first ones who really denied the concept of spare the rod and spoil the child. He really didn't think there was anything wrong with sparing the child. He felt that love and nurturing was the most important thing in a child's upbringing. Of course, he came along at a very opportunistic time. Previous to Dr. Spock, in the 19th century, in the very early 20th century, at a very early age, children became wage earners in families. They had to grow up really, really fast. Well, Dr. Spock came along at a time when society was changing. They were recognizing that that was extremely damaging to children. And he worked very hard to help people understand that. My question to you, there is yet a third reason why Dr. Spock is very, very famous. We've talked about him being a world-famous baby doctor, and his book being one of the best-selling books of the 20th century. We also know he's very known for his liberal activism. However, Dr. Spock is also known for a third reason. This third reason ties him very closely to Johnny Weissmuller. Johnny Weissmuller, the Hollywood actor who starred as Tarzan and subsequently Jungle Jim in Hollywood films. What is it about Dr. Spock? What's the third reason that he's very well known that ties him very closely to Johnny Weissmuller of Tarzan fame? That is question number two. Question number three. We're going to take a little bit of a look at entertainment industry again. We're going to look at Red Skelton. Red Skelton, actually Richard Red Skelton, born July 18th, 1913, passed away September 17th, 1997. Richard Skelton, very, very known for television. He was also known for Hollywood, but he really got his show, or he got his start on the burlesque circuit and vaudeville. I mean, he's been around as an entertainer going back 110 years, and he was very, very famous as an entertainer up until his passing in 1997. Of course, people like me, we know him best because of the Red Skelton Show, which made its debut on September 30th, 1951 on NBC. By 1954, Skelton's show had moved to CBS, and it was expanded to a full hour. It was renamed the Red Skelton Hour in 1962. Despite high ratings, the show was canceled by CBS in 1970. Red Skelton had been on the air for 20 years at that time. He spent his time after the television show making as many as 125 personal appearances a year. And of course, he was a well-known amateur painter as well, specifically painting of clowns. You know, he actually did not view himself as a comedian. He really viewed himself as a clown. His job in life, his life's work, was to make people laugh. And he wanted to be known and defined as being a clown. He ended up having a 70-year history in entertainment. Red Skelton also was very famous because he came up with some very famous sayings. One of them, one of his most famous sayings was, "All men make mistakes, but married men what? What advantage is it that married men have in spite of the fact that all men make mistakes?" That is my third and final question for you today. Finish the saying. All men make mistakes, but married men, what is the advantage that married men have? So there you have it, folks. That's quick trivia for the week. I am your host and the Quizmaster, Mike Brever. I'd like to thank the president of ECTV, Tyler Gudix, our executive producer, Stacy Abbott. I'd really like to thank my producer and editor, Scott McFerrin. I'm telling you, I've said this a million times, but I sincerely mean it. If there's anything about this show you enjoy, Scott's fingerprints are all over it. He's a very creative man, and I benefit from that talent. I'd also like to thank you for spending the last half hour with me. I had a great time, and I hope you did as well. I am your host and the Quizmaster, Mike Brever. Until next week, I ask you to remember those very, very famous words of the recently departed Betty White. I encourage you all to get 8 hours of beauty sleep every night. Unless, of course, you're ugly. In which case, I recommend you get 9. So long, everybody. I'll see you next week.
Now come on, generals, let's move fast. Your big chance is here at last. Now you can go out and get those reds, cause the only good commie is one that's dead. And you know that peace can only be won when the blowing while the kingdom comes. Sing it! 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Louder! Vietnam. And 5, 6, 7, open up the gates. Well, ain't no time to wonder why. Listen, people, I don't know how you expect to ever stop the war if you can't sing any better than that. There's about 300,000 of you fuckers out there. I want you to start singing. Come on. And it's 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, I ain't no time to wonder why. We're all gonna die. Now come on, mothers throughout the land. Pack your boys off to Vietnam. Come on, fathers, don't hesitate. And send your sons off before it's too late. Be the first one on your block. Have your boy come home in a box. All right. 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. The next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, ain't no time to wonder why. We're all gonna die. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, Country Joe McDonald.